Hello everyone, I'm Amir Hossein. Welcome to a new training video. Before getting started, I should inform you that I caught a cold and my voice may not be at its best condition. Okay, anyway, in this video we discuss about running the WRF model with nested domains. We see how to make emissions data and how to run the WRF model with emissions data for nested domains. So I am in the PrepChem sources bin directory. I have talked about PrepChem source utility in my previous videos. You can watch those videos. Let's start with making emissions for our WRF model with two nested domains. So one parent domain and one nested domain. First of all, we need to set an input file that will be used to run PrepChem source utility. And you can see this input file, PrepChem source.input file. For setting this input file, you have actually here some available variables that you need to change their values, but you don't need to do that manually because there is a available utility that you can clone it from a repository. You can get access to it from a repository and do that automatically. That repository is Atmospheric Science. I give the link to this repository in the video description, so you can get access to this repository. I copy this repository address and I clone it here. Atmospheric Science. Now I have Atmospheric Science here. I go to Atmospheric Science, to the WRF directory, to the PrepChem source directory, and here we have a utility or a code which is called setprepchem underscore inputs.sh, which is a shell script code. I copy its path and I get back to my bin directory of the PrepChem source utility and I copy it here. Now I have this program, I have this code set PrepChem input. If you are not sure about your PrepChem source input file, you can also get a valid input file for this utility from the same directory, from the same repository, from Atmospheric Science. But I'm okay now that my PrepChem source input file is okay. I just run this set PrepChem to actually set the variables inside of this PrepChem source input file. Before that, open this file, and inside of this file, before running that, this is very important that I forgot to tell you, this is very important to set these variables. Global emissions, this is the link to the global emissions data, and the link to the namelist.wps, your namelist, your WRF, your actually WPS or WRF preprocessing namelist, and your main namelist.input, your main WRF namelist. And this is another variable that I will discuss about when I want to link the output to the WRF run directory. So everything here is set. I don't need to change it. I just run it and it's successful. And now I can, now that my input file, PrepChem source input file is set, I can run the main PrepChem source utility. For installation and another necessary steps, you can watch my previous video about how to run PrepChem source for one single domain. So I run PrepChem source main utility program to make emissions data. So it's reading various input data, retro, Edgar, and various gaseous agents. Okay, it's done, and now I have some output files here, and if you pay attention to the names, they have they are grouped into different they are split into two different groups. One of them are specified by G1 and the other are specified by G2, and this G1 and G2 are they actually represent grid 1 or domain 1 and grid 2 or domain 2, or the other words on the other words nested domain. Grid 2 or domain 2 means nested domain. So now that my output is ready, I can link my outputs to the WRF run directory and make my emissions data. These are my emissions data. These are actually extracted values or extracted data from global emissions data, but they are not converted to a format that can be read by WRF Chem. So for converting them, you have to link these data to the run directory of your WRF. This is my run directory of WRF. How can you link these outputs? For linking these outputs, the first step is for making emissions, you have to make emissions for one domain at one time. I mean, you cannot make emissions for the whole domains at once. You have to make domains one by one. So for the first domain, you have to link the outputs that contain this G1. Okay, how can you link your data to the WRF run directory? By this command: set PrepChem input with a -L. -L here means linking. But before doing that, how can you be sure that this will link your first domain or parent domain? Just open it. Open it, and here you can find another variable, domain number link. This is set to number 1. So if you run it, it will actually link the files or the emissions files associated with the first domain or parent domain to the run directory. So I run it, L, and if you see here, these files with G1 have been linked to the run directory as emissions files, emissions data, but they are not converted to the format that can be read by WRF. I go to the WRF run directory, and now I'm ready to run convert emis. But before running convert emis, you are supposed to check your name list and change your name list and change something that is appropriate for running before running the convert emis utility. Open your name list. Before that, before doing anything, copy your name list. Always have a copy of your name list. And I have a copy of my name list, so I don't do that. Just open it. Before all of these steps, there is something that I forgot to tell you. Before all of these steps, be sure that you can run your model with Chem option 0. This is very necessary, so it shows you that your name list doesn't have necessary problems or necessary errors or possible errors. and this is very important, so be sure you can run it with chem option 0. So I go to the, if you want to run it with chem option 0, let me show you how you can do that. Just change it to 0, go to the first section and comment all of these variables that are related to the emissions data. Now if you run your real and WRF, you are actually running WRF, not WRF Chem. And you can see that it's running so fast because no chemical option is active now. I open it and I uncomment these variables and I revert it back to 301, and so now I convert it. Actually, I'm converting emissions data for the first domain. By converting, it actually give me WRF Chem, WRF go-kart, WRF fire. These three files actually are the outputs of convert emis for the first domain. So if I open WRF, the input data, these are the emissions data over the parent domain or the first domain. This is actually Caspian Sea, and here is Tehran and Persian Gulf and so on. Now the best choice is to store your emissions data in a safe place. So store your data, WRF Chem and WRF fire, to a safe place, such as this is a directory I just that I previously created. I want to move these newly created emissions data to this directory. I move them here, and now I'm ready to go to the next step. For the next step, actually creating emissions data for the nested domain is a little tricky because you need to change your name list for, I mean, you need to use the specifications of your nested domain for your first domain, and also you need to replace WRF inputs D1 with WRF input D2. So everything should be replaced by the characteristics or the files associated with the nested domain. So you also need to move your input file, WRF input D1, to that safe place. I change WRF input second domain to WRF input D1. Okay, I have one file, WRF input D1, which is actually for the second domain, because we're going to make our emissions data for the second domain or the nested domain. Now I open name list. Before that, I mentioned that you have to make a copy of your name list. I open it, go to the domain characteristics and change these values, change the first values and make it equal to the second value, which is for the nested domain. So I changed 48 to 16, 48 to 16. I changed this one grid points to 28 and this one to 40. And what else? Let me see. And also maximum domain, I change it to 1. And yeah, I think it seems to be okay. Now I run convert emis for the second domain. Seems something happened here. So the problem is that I forgot to link the emissions data for the second domain. I get back to the PrepChem source and now I open this set PrepChem input utility and I change this domain number link to 2 and now I link the data again, set PrepChem source with -L. Now my outputs with G2, which are related to the nested domains, are linked to the WRF run directory. Okay, I get back to the WRF run directory. I run again, convert emis. Seems to be okay now. Let me check WRF Chem, WRF Fire. Let me open one of them, WRF Chem. Yeah, you can see that this is the smaller domain. This is actually the area around Tehran. You can see huge gases, the area and polluted area around this city. Okay, now I have my emissions data ready and I'm very close to run the WRF-Chem, the main WRF-Chem. And before that I need to revert some of my changing. The first one is WRF input file. I change it back to WRF input D2 and I change WRF Chem D1 to D2. Actually these files are D1, but they are actually for the nested domain, so you need to change their name to D2. Change it to D2, same as go-kart, WRF-Chem go-kart to D2, and also for WRF Fire, D2. Okay, and so we have these files for the nested domain, and the nested domain, these files, and this is for nested domain. And now I move all the contents here to the current directory. One file for the parent domain, the other file for the nested domain. So you can see that for any emissions data, you have two files, one for the parent domain and the other for the nested domain. WRF file, one for parent domain, the other for nested domain, and two WRF input file. There is one single step before running the final WRF Chem program, and that is something that is some changing in your WRF Chem input data, but let me run it and see what is the error. Let me open. Before that there is a very important issue. You have to revert back your name list. So I have a copy of my name list. Revert back to it, and okay, this is real.exe, and when I run WRF.exe, it shows some errors. This is the error because it cannot read the input data, and but this is not a serious error. You can just copy this one and change WRF Chem D1 to this file. It needs to have the date and time. The same task for nested domain D2. Okay, now everything seems to be ready. I run WRF. Yes, it has started running, and you can see that it's very heavy. It's actually very heavy computation, so it takes considerable time. And let's just wait for the first storage, for the first time step, for the first time slot that is stored in the WRF output, so I can show it to you. I think I have set it to store data into output after 10 minutes, as far as I remember. Yes, exactly. It's after 10 minutes. It saved the output into the WRF output, so I can show you the content. This is the nested domain. Let me show you NO2. This is the output for NO2 gas. And we show you the output for the nested domain. NO2. Yeah, you can see this is the area that you can find here. This is Tehran, and this is the nested domain covering Tehran and surrounding areas.